Today we're talking about the Opium Wars. Go ahead and in your notes, make a new section titled The Opium Wars. The Opium Wars are between Britain and China, and they have to deal with a narcotic drug called opium. And how does this war all start off between Britain and China? Well, it starts off originally not even with the drug opium. Instead, it originally starts off with tea. Go ahead and make a bullet and write down tea trade. So we had our section title, The Opium Wars, and then we underlined it, and then we have bullet, tea trade. So what ends up happening is that in the year 1720, China begins a direct tea trade with Britain. And so in 1720, China begins directly trading tea with Britain. So Britain shows up with boats, they buy the tea, and then they bring it back. Go ahead and make a 1 and write down 1720, direct tea trade with China begun. So 1720, direct tea trade with China begun. And down in the bottom right-hand corner, that picture right there is of what tea looks like. Okay, so tea looks like what's in the bottom picture down there in the bottom right. That is what tea looks like. So we don't quite know what tea looks like. There you go. Now what ends up happening, in the year 1720, Britain was buying 200,000 pounds of tea per year from China. In year 1730, they were buying 1 million pounds of tea per year from China, which required 15 boats to travel from China to Britain. Well, I guess 15 boats from Britain to China, and then from China back to Britain, and bring the tea to Britain. In the year 1760, they were bringing 2.3 million pounds of tea per year to Britain. In the year 1800, Britain was buying 23.3 million pounds per year from China. That would be 245 boats would have to go to China, pick up tea, and then bring it back. There was a slight problem with this, with Britain buying all this tea from China. You see, China only accepted payment for the tea in the form of silver. Go ahead and make a 2 and write down silver drain to China. So the problem was that Britain was spending all this silver on Chinese goods, and the Chinese really weren't buying anything from Britain. It was just Britain buying stuff from China. And this was creating a bit of an issue because of all the tea that Britain was buying. They were giving a ton of silver to the Chinese, and this was causing the British to kind of run out of silver. Now, there were other things that the British bought from China as well. Europeans bought silk, tea, porcelain, and also spices from China. Go ahead, make a 3. And on a 3 line, write down Europeans bought silk, tea, porcelain, and spices from China. So once again, on 3, Europeans bought silk, tea, porcelain, and spices from China. We talked about porcelain before, and we've talked about silk before. Spices, though, is something new. Now, what spices are, you can find spices in the southern parts of China and from India. So I'm talking about spices, I mean like hot spices. So like hot peppers, for example, okay? So we're talking about like chili peppers. We're talking about hot spices. So if you ever know anything about Indian food and how it's very spicy, or it can be, and even in southern China, the food can be very spicy compared to what's grown in northern China and what people in the United States are used to. So in the United States, we're not used to having a ton of spices in our food, but if you go to India or to southern China, you're going to find that they use a lot of spices in their food. So when we talk about spices, when I say the word spices, I mean hot spices, like, chili peppers. Okay, that's what I'm talking about when I say the word spices. All right. So now that we covered the beginning issue, which was a whole bunch of silver the British were spending on tea from China, Now we need to get into, well, what is opium? So go ahead and make a bullet and write down, what is opium? So bullet, what is opium? So bullet, what is opium? Now, opium is a narcotic drug. It was originally used as a painkiller. Go ahead and make a 1 and write down painkiller. So originally the reason why people got opium was because it was a painkiller and it was used in medicine as a painkiller. The problem with opium is that it is highly addictive. Oh, if you don't know what opium looks like, it's in the picture here in the bottom right. Okay, so this is what opium looks like. So these are opium poppies. So this is what opium looks like. Make a 2, write down highly addictive. So opium is highly addictive. So opium was used as a painkiller and it is highly addictive. So how do we consume opium? How do you like get opium into your system? Like, do you inject it in there? Do you like eat it? How does this work? Well, what you do with opium is that you take opium and you mix it with tobacco and then you can smoke it. So you take something that's addictive, opium, you combine it with something else that's addictive, tobacco, and you smoke it, and there you go. Then you get something that's highly addictive. Make a 3, opium mixed with tobacco so it could be smoked. So 3, opium mixed with tobacco so it could be smoked. So the opium was mixed with tobacco so it could be smoked, and that created a bit of an issue. Now, China had banned the smoking of opium and the trade of opium in 1729. So in 1729, China was like, no, this is causing way too many health and social issues in our country. It's causing people to become addicted, and then they're not getting jobs, and it's causing them to commit crimes. So they had banned opium in 1729. However, that didn't stop some people from still trying to bring it into the country. Go make a new bullet and write down English East India Company. So new bullet, English East India Company. Now, the English East India Company, by the time we get into the later part of the 1700s, the English East Company had already taken over India. So they were already in control of India. And they were already kind of producing opium in India and sending it out to other places. And they could make quite a huge profit with opium. So they could sell opium in Calcutta, for example, for a profit of 400%. What does that mean? That means that if it costs $1 to make the opium, you're selling it for $5 in Calcutta. Okay, so that's what that kind of means. So that's a 400%. Because 100% would be like $2, and then 300% would be $3, and so forth and so on. Okay. Make a 1. Now for one line, we're going to write down controls India. So 1 controls India. So let's make 1 and write down controls India. So the East India Company, like I said, late 1700s, it controls India. Now, the East India Company, even though we talked about before about how opium was banned in China, the English East India Company starts directly trading it into China anyways in 1797. So originally they were kind of smuggling it through India and Bengal to get it into China. But then in 1797, they just straight up to start bringing it into China. Go ahead and make a 2. And we're going down 1797, begun direct trade of opium into China. And kind of just some additional information here. Let me see if I can kind of get it all on the screen here for you. So kind of some additional information here and such. Is that the British were sending a lot of opium into China, and they were sending 15 tons of opium into China in 1730, 75 tons in 1773. They're shipping about 2,000 chests, and each chest was 140 pounds of opium in the 1920s. Right, so they're sending quite a lot of opium into China. Yeah. And they're sending opium into China basically to get back all the silver that they had spent on it. So they're kind of sending it in there just to, get back their silver. So that was kind of their way of trying to get back their silver. All right. So now we've kind of set the stage. We know that China has banned opium, but the British, or especially the East India Company, wasn't listening to that ban. They were bringing in just straight up just sailing boats into Chinese harbors and just straight up selling it from there. So we know that's a problem. We know that the British aren't listening to the rules the Chinese have set down about the opium. So how does that cause a war? We'll see how that all devolved into a war next time.